VS Code is an open-source, lightweight code editor created by Microsoft which can be used for practically any programming language. PHPStorm is a fully featured, intelligent, powerful IDE created by JetBrains, which is more focused on PHP and has some great features and tools necessary for PHP development. Let's compare them and understand which one is better for PHP. Hello everybody and welcome to the Codeholic. My name is Zura and on this channel I do coding tutorials and challenges as well as some tips, tricks and advices. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe for more videos like this. I made comparison in the following criteria: system requirements, opening time, and performance. After that, we're going to cover some essential features like autocompletion, shortcuts, and code formatting. Then we're going to cover some necessary features like code refactoring, code snippets, debugging, and so on. Then we're going to move on the more advanced features like the deployment, database tool, local history, and so on. And we're going to also understand what's the value of the product out of the box. We know that VS Code is quite good, fast, and open source, but it needs a lot of extensions to be productive in VS Code. So we're going to install the extensions and understand how good it can be with extensions and compare that to PHPStorm, basically without extensions or with extensions if necessary. And we're going to also understand which one is an intelligent IDE, intelligent editor, like clever enough to help you in certain cases. I tried to cover all the important features, but again, there are tons of features that I couldn't cover in this video due to the duration. Again, this is still very long video, but there are a couple of other features I didn't cover, just I couldn't. But these features will give you an idea which one is better for what cases, and you can find out a couple of other features on your own. Alright, let's start comparison with three main topics: system requirements, opening time, and performance. Before we start, smash that like button, hit on subscribe and the notification bell button, and let's jump into the video. Considering the fact that VS Code is an editor and PHPStorm is IDE, VS Code is much lightweight, and its system requirements and opening time is much shorter. Let's have a look at the VS Code system requirements. Right here it is written that the installation file is less than 100 megabyte, it's small to download, and the disk footprint is about 200 megabyte. VS Code is lightweight and should easily run on today's any hardware. The recommended specifications for the hardware is 1.6 GHz or faster processor and 1 GB of minimum RAM. It can run on almost any operational systems like Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. Let's see the system requirements of PHPStorm. So it needs minimum 2 GB of RAM. It is using Java, that's why, and it's much more powerful, that's why it needs much more RAM. The recommended size, however, is 8 GB of total system RAM. The disk space is 2.5 GB as a minimum and another 1 GB for some caches and some settings, and SSD is very recommended with at least 5 GB of free space. Also, the minimum screen size is 1024 by 768, but the recommended is 1080p. It runs also on almost any operational systems, Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Let's see now opening time. I have very fresh installed VS Code as well as PHPStorm, and we're going to open them very first time, and then we're going to open them second time and third time, and we're going to open with the project and see how the opening time basically changes when we are using that editor. Okay, let's start with the first open, and I'm going to open VS Code right now. As you can see how fast this opens. I have very fast, not very fast, but very good machine. It's i7 with 16 gigs of RAM, and it works quite fast on my machine. So this is the opening time. Let's check it out once again. Click on the icon. This is already second open. and it opens in 2-3 seconds maximum. Let's see the PHPStorm, how fast it can be opened on the very first time. So click on the icon. So right here it is already open, but because I'm opening this very first time, it asks me some settings to choose. So I don't have anything to import. I deleted all my settings. So I'm gonna go with the OK. And then I can choose dark or light theme. I'm gonna go with dark EULA, skip remaining and set defaults. And here it is already opened, and I can create new project or open existing folder. So again, I'm going to close this now and open this second time. And now it opens much faster. Okay, now let's open projects with VS Code and PHPStorm. So I'm going to close this one again, and right here I have my htdocs folder where I have all the projects, and I'm going to open this free code tube, which is a framework, and this basically is a project which I created for Free Code Camp E2 using E2 framework, and it's a YouTube clone. So it's not a very small project, it's not also very large, but it's a medium-sized project, and it has also right here vendor, which has a lot of third-party packages right there. Okay, let's open this folder with VS Code first. Right click, open with VS Code. And as you can see, it needs just 2 or 3 seconds to fully open. And now I can browse inside the folders, open some controllers files, and start writing code right there. Okay, so I'm gonna now close that. And let's open the same thing with PHPStorm. Right click, open folder as PHPStorm project. And it starts loading. It needs much more time, as I mentioned. Then it starts indexing down below. These are tips. I can just go to the next tip or just close this one. And now it's already opened. So it's there. And the indexation time basically of the project, generally when you open the project very first time in PHPStorm, it needs some time to index the whole project. But the indexation time is dependent on the project size, on your machine, on the CPU load and things like that. So in this case, the indexation time was very small and the PHPStorm already indexed my project. I'm going to click this, don't show this again. So right here, the project is there. I can click on that, explore my folders. Right here, I have frontend, controllers, and I can open the controllers right here. So how fast it is to open? Definitely VS Code opens much faster and winning in this criteria. If we just talk about how fast or how good performance the editor or IDE has when working inside there, we can check a couple of things. For example, if I want to search and replace in the whole project, so let's search in the VS Code first. Okay, here I have the open project. Let's expand this on the full screen, and Control, Shift, and F opens that search, and I can search for video, for example, and it finds immediately all of the video usages. I can tick to match case, or I can search even with a regex, but here I have all these things. So it works quite fast if I navigate in between the folders, and let's actually open a couple of files. Frontend, controllers. So here I have a couple of files opened. Let's open models, sign up form, and I can easily navigate, and the navigation is very smooth, very fast. So definitely VS Code has excellent performance when you're using. So let's see how this works in PHPStorm. I'm going to open a couple of controllers right here. Let's open a couple of models as well. Okay, and let's see. So the navigation is also very fast right here. You basically don't notice any difference right here. Let's use search, Control, Shift, and F right here as well. It opens that search. I can search for video, and it also immediately finds. The only disadvantage is that if PHPStorm is in the indexation process, and sometimes, again, as I mentioned, depending on the project size, the indexation time might be several minutes. So if it is in the indexation process, basically the find and a couple of other features don't work as expected. So it needs the project to be fully indexed in order that such kind of features to work. Okay, so basically we talked about the system requirements, opening time, and performance. Let's move on some essential features like autocompletion, shortcuts, code formatting, and so on. Let's start with the autocompletion. Right here I have created sample.php file, and I'm gonna test autocompletion right here in this file. So let's say that I want to create an instance of the PDO class. So I just create PDO equals new PDO, and VSCode basically doesn't find that there exists a PDO class in the PHP core. So it doesn't autocomplete that for me. If I want to find another function, for example, I'm gonna call user_func, in this case it finds that there is such kind of function and autocompletes that for me. If I want to find and use the third-party code, for example, I know that I have a video class and I want to use that video class and call static method of that video class, again it does not autocomplete. So autocompletion basically doesn't work in out-of-the-box VS Code. You need to install extension. And the best extension I found for VS Code is PHP IntelliSense. Not PHP IntelliSense, but PHP IntelliSense. So let's install this one. As soon as the extension is installed, we can already start using its features. Again, PDO equals new PDO, and now it autocompletes that there is a PDO class. I'm going to hit enter on that, and it also shows me what parameters that PDO accepts in the constructor. So I'm going to pass empty strings at the moment, and let's call a method on the PDO, for example, create statement. So right here, when I just type create, it basically autocompletes a lot of things, and it also shows the things which are not actually part of the PDO object. For example, I know for sure that create function or CRL file create or date create is not a part of the PDO, but I don't actually see that create statement. Let's call another function set error handler. This is not actually also part of the PDO, but let's try set attribute, which is actually part of the PDO. So the autocompletion, the IntelliSense menu is not quite accurate because it shows other things which are not actually part of the PDO. So if I want to call some third-party function, for example, again, call user_func right here, it actually finds that function, but it does not actually show the arguments right here or the documentation of that function until you just choose the function. So maybe I want to see what arguments the function is accepting, so I don't see that until I just right here click choose that function, and right here then I see that function and the documentation and everything basically. So that's minor thing, but it's quite useful to see what arguments you accept. Also, right here we see call user_func and call user_func array 2 times. I don't know, I'm not sure why this is repeated. Let's actually reload the VS Code, because since we installed the extension we didn't reload that, so I'm going to close that and open that. So let's try this once again. We need to make sure that everything is there. So call _user_func, again I see this 2 times and I don't see the documentation for that function. Okay, let's try autocompletion of third-party code. So I know that I have a video class, so I just start typing video, and right here it finds that video is a part of common modules video. So I'm going to hit enter, and it automatically imports that video, which is awesome, which is excellent. So then I want to call find static method right here, and right here it autocompletes basically nicely. Then I'm going to call, for example, active or published. I know that the video find returns an object, video query object, and that video query object has published right there. So it also auto completes this one right here, which is nice. So let's hit the enter right here, and then I'm gonna call all, for example. And right here again, I see a couple of other methods which have all inside the name, which are not actually part of that object, which is again video query object. So the video query object has only all and one. So if I just disable that IntelliSense, so let's check it out once again. So I type all and it finds other things. If I just hit the escape to disable the intelligence and then hit Control and space, then it only finds that all which is part of publish. So it's a little bit buggy and it doesn't work actually perfectly. So let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So I'm gonna delete this and open the PHPStorm and open the same file, sample PHP, right here. Okay, let's actually write PDO instance. So PDO equals new PDO, and right here it immediately finds. So let's choose that one, and we can specify the arguments right here. And let's call, for example, create. And right here, it only finds the single function in the autocompletion. So SQLite create function, and obviously this is part of the PDO. So let's call set attribute, and again, it only finds that one. And right here, I have that this accepts actually the attribute integer and the value. Other than that, I don't have any other documentation displayed right here. If I want to select, I can select this. It will be also nice if I see when I just call the method or function. Let's try another one, call user func right here. For example, I want to see the documentation. Okay, so exactly what is this function? Maybe on the right side, it would be awesome to see the documentation. Previously, actually, before I deleted my PHPStorm, it was actually working. And when I was navigating between arrows, using arrows right here between different functions, I was able to see on the right side the exact documentation for that function. And I don't know why this doesn't work at the moment, but yeah, it was working. So the autocompletion basically is almost similar in this specific criteria, but the advantage of the PHPStorm is that when you autocomplete something, it only, for example, again, if I got back to PDO, if I want to autocomplete set, it only finds the valid methods for that PDO. Let's try autocompletion of third-party code. So I just start typing video, hit the enter. It doesn't create that use. It writes common models video, and I don't know which one is better in this case. But it puts that double colon right here and opens that IntelliSense menu automatically, which is awesome. So again, if I just type video, hit the enter, then it opens that IntelliSense automatically and shows me all the static methods and constants for that. I'm going to call find, and then I'm going to call published, and then I'm going to call all, and right here I have, and again, that's actually very nice. Choose that method, and here we have that. Now, let's see autocompletion in a view files, in a template files. So right here is my login form template, and I'm using the following variables. I have access to these variables. This, which is an instance of eWebView, form, and model. And let's talk about the model, which is created by me. It's a common models login form, and right here is my model. It has a couple of public properties, couple of functions right here, validate password, login, and so on. And I want to use that model right here in that view file. So model, and I want to access, for example, username property. Basically, it doesn't autocomplete that there exists that username property. Instead, it autocompletes something junk, which should not be here. Actually, I told my IDE that the variable of model this is an annotation. The variable of model is an instance of this, but it does not autocomplete that for me. So let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So here is my login form opened in PHPStorm, and let's access the username of the model, and it autocompletes that for me. If I want to have a validate password, it actually autocompletes that for me as well. Let's go back to VS Code, and I want to show you something. So it doesn't understand in this notation, but if we change this with double asterisk right here, this way, and they should be deleted. So in this case, it still cannot understand, but if we just move this login form before that variable right here, so then as I tested, it was understanding. So now let's try to access the username, and right here it shows me that username. If I want to access validate password, now I see that validate password, which I was not able previously to see. Again, I know that this variable has an access to render method. So this render, and I don't see render in the autocompletion. So let's change this before the variable in this way, and now the render basically appears, and it also shows that there exists render Ajax, render body, begin HTML, and so on. So the autocompletion in the view files works also in VS Code if you just put your annotations properly in this way. And obviously this works also in the PHPStorm. PHPStorm basically doesn't care if you put the class before the variable or after the variable. So just Control and space right here, and it shows all the autocompletion menus here. Okay, let's talk about the autocompletion of the associative array keys. So right here I have a person associative array with just single key and single value, and I want to output the person first name. So I just start typing echo person, then square brackets, and inside the square brackets I want to type first name. It doesn't autocomplete. It cannot understand that the person variable has first name right there. At least it doesn't show me this inside the IntelliSense menu, so I'm forced to write the full name, first name. So let's try once again, Control and space, and if I just type Control and space, it shows this to me. But it doesn't do this always, and it's very not stable. So if I add right here another property like address, for example, and let it be an empty string, and I want to output the address, so I just start typing AD, Control and space, and right now it shows me couple of other things which are not address. Obviously add c slashes, add slashes, these are actually functions as far as I know. So hit the enter. This is not what I want address. Okay, this is not stable and it doesn't work perfectly. Let's actually move into PHPStorm and see how this works there. So right here I have the same person variable, echo person first name, and it autocompletes the first name for me. Just hit the enter and it will be written. Let's try address. It autocompletes address for me. It's maybe minor thing, but believe me, in building real applications, when you need to save your time as much as possible, these features, such kind of tiny features, make my day. So this is very important when you're building a real applications. Okay, let's see now autocompletion of when creating for each loops. So right here I have countries array with 3 countries, and I want to iterate my country. So I just start typing for, hit the enter, nothing happens. Let's choose the other one. So we want to fully understand, and right here when I type, it just creates normal for loop. However, I want for each. So hit right here, and I don't have basically possibility to autocomplete that for me, and right here I have that for each, hit the enter, and here we go. So it's very hard to trigger that, but for each, and once you choose that function, that snippet, then it puts the highlighted on that. So hit on that, and on the variable I'm gonna use countries, and then hit the tab. As a key I want to have an index, or I want to fully delete that key. As a value, I want to have country. But right here, the highlighted area is including the arrow. So hit the tab again. Oops. So let's do this once again. So it's a little bit tricky and, in my opinion, not very user-friendly. So countries, hit the tab. Right here, I want to take the index, hit the tab again, and then I'm forced to write arrow once again, and then country, and then just move down. So let's see, actually this is minor thing again, but let's see how this actually works. And if my variable actually is users, I need to use users obviously, and you will understand what I mean. So right here I have the countries and I want to write a for each loop. So I just start typing for and for e, there is a snippet for that, for e. So hit the enter and that snippet comes out of the box. This is not created by me. So, and right here I just start typing countries and it creates right here country in a singular form. So I just hit enter, enter once again, and my for loop is actually written exactly how I want. So let's try this once again in a faster way. So for each countries, hit the enter 2 times and my for each loop is there. Okay, so if my variable is called users, so for example, I'm gonna type right here users, and then this is changed into user. If my variable is called into fruits, this is changed into fruit, and I hit enter 2 times and my for each is written. This is a minor thing, but very awesome and it makes you feel happy when you're like building your real applications. Okay, let's talk about the shortcuts, which are essential feature for any developer. My recommendation to junior developers is always use shortcuts and get familiar with them, because that changes basically your workflow and that gives you a boost of productivity. So both of them have built-in shortcuts which you can use. For example, if I want to close a tab in VS Code, I would just hit the Ctrl and W, which immediately closes the tab. There is a shortcut to open the Explorer, which is Ctrl Shift and E. To close the Explorer will be, I don't know how to actually close that, but there will be a shortcut for that as well. And you can customize shortcuts. So both of them have possibility to customize your keyboard shortcuts. You can set whatever you want, and just like that it works. So the existing shortcuts of PHPStorm is something what I generally don't like. So for example, I want to close my tab using Ctrl and W, just like it works in VS Code, but it doesn't do the same thing. Instead, it makes a selection of the words. So I generally change this. I go to the settings and search for shortcuts, and then in the key map section, I find all the shortcuts I want. I just search for it and I set my desired shortcut. So again, this is not big deal that this doesn't come with the exact same shortcuts I'm used to, because once you set the shortcuts as you want to use, then it's up to you. So you just do this once. So it's not a big deal, and the main thing is that both of them, PHPStorm and VS Code, supports shortcut customization, so you can set your own shortcuts. One more example is that in VS Code, I know that I can open terminal using Ctrl and tilde, and I would like this to work in PHPStorm as well, which doesn't work. So I generally set to open terminal on my desired shortcut. And basically, as I mentioned, these are fully customizable. I set my own shortcuts, which boosts my productivity. Let me know, by the way, in the comment section if you want to see all my shortcuts which might be productive for you and which might help you as well. Let's talk about code formatting, and both of them supports code formatting, but in VS Code you need to install PHP IntelliFence extension, otherwise the code formatting simply doesn't work. The value of VS Code for PHP without extensions basically is not that much, to be honest. And right here I have unformatted code. Right click on that, hit that format document, or you can use the corresponding shortcut right here, and it nicely formats the code. And let's undo this and have a look in the PHPStorm as well. It's not actually in the context menu. You just need to click code right here and reformat code, and then it formats the code nicely. As I mentioned, both of them have shortcuts for that. I'm used to shortcut in PHPStorm, which is Ctrl Alt and L, but again, even this shortcut is customizable and you can set to whatever you want. Let's see which one is good when giving errors. For example, let's open VS Code as a first, and right here I'm going to output a variable of name, which is not actually declared in this file. So VS Code doesn't give me any error about that, and which is good or bad. So it depends how we're going to look at this. The PHPStorm does give me error on that, puts the red underline that the undefined variable name. And this is actually, in this specific case, this is actually good, and PHPStorm does it better that, hey, you don't have name variable and why are you outputting that? That's nice. But there is a certain case. So if, for example, I have that name variable passed in a view right here, and I know that I have that and I'm just outputting that name variable, I don't want to see an error on that. If we just move in the PHPStorm right here, I see that red underline on the name because it is not declared and PHPStorm doesn't understand about that. So generally, when I have certain this kind of cases, I put right here in the DocBlocks annotation that right here I have a variable name which is type of string, and then PHPStorm doesn't complain about that. Again, depends how we're going to look at this. It might be good or might be bad, but I generally prefer to give me an error and fix that error rather than don't give me an error and like it happens right here in the index.php, rather than don't give me an error and it might be a problem later. Also, right here, if I have an if statement and I call some function right here, let's call the time function, and I create name variable inside that time function, and then I'm using that name variable somewhere. So this is totally fine and I don't see any warnings, any errors about that. Okay, if I just go into PHPStorm right here, I see yellow underline, which tells me that the variable name is probably undefined. So depending on the function result, it might be undefined, and that's kind of warning which is something you should pay attention to, such kind of yellow underlines. So that's definitely worth mentioning. So I think, in my opinion, that about giving errors, PHPStorm does it better. Also, one more thing right here, you see that yellow underline on the application. If you mouse over on that, you will see that there's an unhandled ebase invalid config exception. So this understands PHPStorm that somewhere inside that class constructor, it is throwing the following error, ebase invalid config exception, and it gives you also actions to surround with a try and catch or do some other actions. So in this case, I can just surround it in try and catch, and this yellow underline disappears and I can catch the error and do whatever I want. So this is maybe a minor thing, but again, in real applications, this is very awesome, and you should pay attention to every underline, no matter it's a yellow or red, in real applications. Okay, let's see how find and replace works. So let's first do this in VS Code. I'm going to click on that loop icon, or just Ctrl Shift and F, and that opens the search sidebar, and I'm going to search for the video class, and I won't probably replace it with something else, but first I'm gonna use this search. And right here it finds all the occurrences of the video, and I have enabled match case and match whole word right here. So if I just untick them, I see the immediate update. That is nice. I can use also some regular expression. This is totally fine. What options do I have right here? I think I don't have that many options, the other options. So right here I have, I don't have syntax highlighting. So I just see a raw white text right here. So if I want to open this in the editor, I can see the search result right here, in which file, where are the actual cases. And let's actually see find and replace. Ctrl Shift and H. And right here, let's say that I want to replace this with my video. And that's actually very nice. So it strikes the video and puts the my video right there. And if I want to exclude a couple of files, so for example, I don't want to do this in the site controller or in the video controller or in the form, and let's say that's enough. And then when I'm doing this, I remember that, oh yeah, I want to do this in the site controller. So I don't actually have possibility to undo my remove. So I have to make a search once again, and then I have to remove from the video controller, maybe form, but leave the site controller. So I have to repeat my step again, which is not quite user-friendly. So, and again, as I mentioned, I don't have syntax highlighting. And yeah, if I just click on this on the right side, I see what it is right now and what it will look like when I do the actual replace. So that's actually a nice thing. Okay, and can I change it right here? Yeah, I can change it. Okay, let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So let's go to PHPStorm, and I'm going to use Ctrl Shift and F right here, and I'm looking for video right here. And again, I can tick that match case or the whole word into the following way, and it finds all that thing, and it finds a lot of things in the data. And that actually finds the first 100 matches, and the other things are not displayed right here, which might be not very good. So these are all user-generated data. These are actually logs, debug logs, and I don't want to see that information right here. Okay, I want to see only inside PHP files. And in PHPStorm, I have an option for that. I can tick the checkbox and choose the extension in which file I want to search for the following text, which is an amazing feature. I use it a lot. And now I can search it inside PHP files only. And right here I see the lines with the syntax highlighting, which is nice. I can navigate with my arrows, and down below I will see all the actual use cases. I can double click right here and it opens the files, or I can open in Find window. And down below it will find all the matches. So let's search it once again without that file mask. And let's actually do find and replace. So I want to find all video and replace with my video. And let's actually open in find window. I can replace from here, but I want to open find window. And it finds that 587 occurrences right here, which are grouped based on the files and folders, which is nice also. And I can expand all of them right now. And if I want to exclude that site controller, I'm going to right click and exclude. And it is not deleted, but it's striked. So if I want to exclude the video controller, I want to exclude the whole debug folder. I don't want their whole logs folder. I don't want it there as well. And I'm going to exclude that form as well. And now if I remember that, hey, I want site controller, I want to replace inside there as well, I'm going to collapse the logs. I generally do this because this is what I'm not interested at the moment. And if I remember that I want to replace in the site controller, I'm going to right click on that and include. And just like this, so I don't include the video controller and forms, but I have possibility to replace all there. So I can replace all or replace the 4 occurrences, which is inside the video controller right here. So in this case, I'm going to click replace all, and it will just do like this. And again, I also have syntax highlighting right here. On the right side, I see immediately, and if I double click on that, it opens the file, and it will basically give me possibility to easily change whatever I want. I generally like find and replace in PHPStorm a lot. I think it's much better than it is in VS Code. Okay, let's talk about integrated version control system. Both of them have integrated VCS, and they have great support, both of them. However, VS Code doesn't give us all the features which I think an experienced developer needs. So that's why there exists an extension which is called Git Lens. So you need to install the following extension, git lens git supercharged, in order to get all the features. I have just installed that, and let's see what features we can have, and let's compare them to each other. So right here, the default version control gives us the possibility to see all the changes. Just click on that and see what happens. So for example, we had previously the following code, and now we have nothing in the sample PHP. In the channel controller, for example, previously we didn't have a method, and now we created method 1. Down below, there is a method 2. In the login PHP, we just changed that. Right here, we reordered the variable and the class names, and here we have all the information. I can just click on that and just move them into staging area, and type a commit message and just commit them. Okay, let's see how this is looking in the PHPStorm. So on the project, we have basically many different options to trigger to see all the changes. For example, on the left side, we have that commit area. Just click on that and it opens that change list, and you can type a message, and by default all of them are ticked, which means that even though they are not staged, they will be committed if the checkbox is ticked. I think that's convenient because in most cases when you are about to commit something, you want to include all of them there, isn't it? So you just have them ticked, and you can untick, and if you want to commit only that one, you can just commit that channel controller. If I double click on the channel controller, it gives me all the differences, what's happening inside that file. So previously I didn't have anything, and now I have method 1. Down below, we can see I didn't have anything, and I have method 2. So in the VS Code, again, if I want to include all of them, I have to click that 3 times, and if I have a lot of files right there, I have to do this for all of them. If I just copied and pasted, for example, I don't know, some folder which has a package right there, maybe 20, I don't know, a file, I have to do this for each of them. Maybe there is a better approach, but at least I couldn't find that. I didn't make a full research, obviously, but it's not like on the front page, so you can't immediately stage the whole folder or something like this. So let's see how this works in the PHPStorm. So if I have a new folder, for example, I can right click on that, git, and I can call that add on that folder, and everything will be moved into staging area on that folder, inside that folder. Or I can just right click, git, add, and everything inside the project will be moved into staging area. If I just right click, git, and then commit directory, it opens the same thing. And for example, sometimes I want to commit a part of the file. So in this case, for example, I want to commit just the method 2, but not method 1. So I have possibility to untick that specific change and only commit the method 2. And right here I see dash. It is not ticked, it is just dash, which means that I'm committing part of that file. And I can type commit message right here, hit the commit, and it will be committed. I'm not going to commit that because the changes are not useful for me for that project at the moment. But again, this is something to mention. These are local changes. If I want to see a change for a specific file, let's say in the channel controller, or if I want to see a commit history of that specific file, I can right click and show git and show history. And whenever I have this right here, I see all the commits made on that channel controller, and at the moment there is a single commit made right here, and this is what is committed. But let's just move into another file, comment search, for example, right click, git, and show history, and it shows me right here that I made 2 commits. On the first commit I made everything, and on the second commit I just added that line on 45. So this is the history for that specific file. And if I want to see whom actually made that line of commit, I need to right click on the left side and annotate, and I see that I actually made that commit on 15th of November, and this commit is actually made on 15th of November, but that one has an asterisk, which means that this is the latest commit made on that file. And if I click on that specific commit hash, commit line, I see right here what changes were made on that commit. So, and I see the commit message right here as well. So this is, and if I double click on that file, I see what was changed. So I added that line. I can double click on another files and see what changes were made on that specific commit. Let's see something similar in VS Code. So for this, we need git length, and let's actually open Ctrl+P and let's search for comment search. Click on that, and right here it shows me that this file was committed 6 days ago, and there's a one author, and this is me. And if I click inside the files, it also shows me that I made this commit, and this is the actual commit message, display comments in backend. This is actually, in my opinion, a very good feature. And if I mouse over on that, it also shows me the full commit message, the second line, and the exact time, and the hashtag, and even my picture. So it also shows me down below that this file is committed 6 days ago by me. If I scroll down to that specific section, parent, I see that now this is made 6 days ago by me as well. But if I mouse over, I see that this is a different commit message right here. So whenever you install that git length, you need to reload your VS Code. Basically just close it and open it, and you will see that git length right here, and it shows me all the commit messages made in the project. So right here I have that commit messages. If I just click on the commit message, it expands folders and files. So right here I have the folders, and these are the folders I committed on that. And let's observe the backend and comment search. For example, if I just single click on that, I see that this is the change what has been made right there. If I click on the index, I see what changes have been made right there, and I can see the other ones, and I can scroll to the bottom and see what changes have been made on that specific commit, which is very nice, very good. We can also see the specific file history. So if we have opened again, let's search for comment search and just click on the git length and file history. Right here I see two commits. So this is the commit, the first commit what has been made right there, and this is the last commit what I made and added that parent. So this is the equivalent what we saw in the PHPStorm. Just right click git and show history. Okay, what else do we have? We have branches right here in the VS Code using git length, so we can click on that and see what commits are actually made on that specific branch. We can see that as well. That's helpful. We can see how many remotes we have. We can see all stashes and tags, but the project doesn't have stashes and tags at the moment. So this is nice and good. Let's see the similar things in PHPStorm. So if we want to see the whole git history, down below we have that git. I'm going to click on that, and shows me right now the comment search. If I just close that comment search, I can see that the whole git history of the project. And we can start from the beginning. Let's actually go to the local, and right here I have all the commits, and I can also see right here, if I just expand the inner area, I can see that this commit, specific commit, is made on origin and master and origin and comments. On the right side, I see all the files have been changed in that specific commit. So double click on that, I can see the following change, which actually we already covered. Then we have that change, another change. Down below, we have that commit message, update comment counts bugs, who made the commit, at what time, and what other information, like in which branches this commit is made. I can go to previous commits and easily see on the right side what changes have been made right there. I can of course navigate with arrows, which is sometimes more helpful. What I can do, even I can compare that specific commit to the current one, right click and compare with the local, and that shows me all the differences which are made since that commit. And right here, for example, in the main PHP, I can see that this specific line was added, and if I just click on that arrow, I'm reverting to that specific version. So if I just click on that, and that change actually is made in the backend config main PHP, for example. So if we go in the left side commit, let me collapse this, we see that in the main PHP, double click on that, we see that now we're about to commit the following thing. So previously we had that, but now we don't have that. So if I tick the checkbox, that specific change will be committed. So this is very helpful. Again, there are many other things to cover right here. I can filter these by specific branch and see only commits made on the master branch. I can filter that by specific user, or I can show only commits made in last 7 days, or I can even filter that by specific path. Commits made in the only inside the front-end branch, and here we have not the front-end branch, sorry, front-end path. So look at the path. So C, examp, htdocs, freecode2, and the front end. And this is very helpful and very awesome. Both of them have great support. I personally am very used to PHPStorm's integrated terminal, which in my opinion is very cool, very awesome. VSCode has an excellent tool, but you need to install the extension for some additional things like the blame and see the annotation. Let's see it. See the annotation for that specific file. Let's open this once again. Just click inside and you'll see that. Again, you need to find this out more about that. There's an awesome video by James Q. Quick about git length extension in Visual Studio Code. I will put that video link in the description to find out more about the git length in VS Code. And yeah, that's about the version control systems. One minor thing about the version control systems, if I want to commit a specific file or specific folder, and that's very common, so I'm going to right click on that and git and commit that file, and on the left side when it opens that, there is only that file selected. And this layout basically is relatively new, and previously there was a pop-up layout. So if you click on that settings and switch to commit dialog, it will turn into this dialog where we have all that files, and down below we have that commit messages. And if I click on that file, down below I see that changes. Right now my browser scaling, oops, I clicked something. My browser scaling is set to very up level, 350%. That's why I don't see that much information, but on a 1080p normal 100% scaling, this looks very good, and you can see the changes made right here. And as I mentioned, you can untick that specific change if you want to include in the commit. And right here I see that I'm about to commit 1 out of 2 changes in that specific file. Whenever you change this into dialog, then down below in the git section you have that local changes, which is just the information, what changes have you made right there. So just click on that and you see, and you can revert that specific change. I don't want that one to be there. In the channel controller, I don't want these things also to be there. So this is something awesome, and I decided to mention. If I want to commit the specific folder, right click on the folder, git and commit, and you'll only see files ticked to be committed right there. Okay, let's talk about now integrated terminal. Both of them supports integrated terminal, and they also have multiple terminals possibility. So let's open the terminal by just hitting the terminal and new terminal, or just Control and tilde, and it opens in VS Code just like this. If you want to have multiple terminals, you just click that plus button right here and creates different terminals, and you can navigate from here. If you want to choose another terminal, you just click the select default shell and you choose, for example, git bash. So I'm going to click on that, and whenever you open new terminal, it is now git bash terminal, which is very handy, and I love this specific feature about terminal, integrated terminal in VS Code. If you want to close specific terminal, you just switch to there and click on the delete button, and let's leave only bash. Let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So first of all, there is no specific shortcut to open the terminal from the beginning. I generally go to the settings and configure shortcut for that, but let's open with the mouse, and right here I have that. The good side of the PHPStorm's terminal is that I can easily create new tabs, and the navigation between these tabs is much easier than in VS Code. Not much easier, but easier a little bit, because right here, if I just open different terminals, I need 2 clicks to switch to another terminal, right? Because they are in the drop down. But in the PHPStorm, I have tabs. That's why it's much easier to navigate. I can also give it names. For example, I can name this to be a Docker terminal, and I can name this to be a Git terminal, and this one to be something else. In VS Code, I'm not sure if I have possibility to do this. I think I don't have possibility. I don't know. I haven't covered this. I haven't discovered this. So I think there's no possibility to name this whatever you want. So all of them are called just bash, and that's how it is. You need to understand that this is the first one, this is the second one, and yeah, if you have Docker in the first one, you have to remember, which is not quite good. So naming is very handy, especially when you close and open the project, it saves that names and it's there. That's very handy feature. However, if I want to open git bash, for example, I have to go to the file and settings, and then find the terminal. And inside the terminal, the shell path is set to cmd.exe. So I have to choose right here the git bash executable, which will be somewhere right here. And next time, whenever I open the new terminal, it opens the git bash. But the downside of all this is that if I want to go back to PowerShell, and let's just close this. Whenever I open new tab, it's always git bash. If I want sometimes to open git bash, sometimes PowerShell, there's basically not possibility for that. You have to go to the settings and change that again. I like in VS Code that you can easily switch to Windows PowerShell or some other terminal, what you have right there. That's handy features. So both of them in the terminal section, both of them have advantages and disadvantages, and yeah, I cannot say who is the winner in this case, because both of them have like great terminal with great tools, and yeah, that's it. Okay, let's talk about multi-cursor. Both of them supports multi-cursor, obviously, and they also have column selection. So let's try. So if I want to create multi-cursors, I will just use the middle button of the mouse, the scroll button, click on that, and then drag, and this will just create multiple cursors, and I can make a column selection in the following way as well. So I select the following one, and by the way, look at this, also git length shows the annotations for all the lines, which is also very good. If I don't have a mouse, for example, and I'm using the touchpad on my laptop and I want to create that multi-cursor, I have to use Alt and Shift and then drag, and this will create multi-cursor. And again, I can select this using Alt and Shift and just left key on your mouse. Let's see how this works in the PHPStorm. So right here, I can just, using middle button, it works in the same way exactly. So just using the mouse middle button, you create that multi-cursors, or just make a column selection, or using Alt and Shift and mouse, you do basically the same thing in this way. And obviously you can change when you create multi-cursors, you can do whatever you want. So there's basically they are working in the same way in the multi-cursor area. Okay, now let's talk about creating PHP files. So for example, I have controllers folder and a couple of controllers, and I want to create new controller right there, which should be also a controller, something similar to that, which means that this controller must have a namespace of front-end controllers, and it must extend that specific controller, which is eWeb controller class. So click on that, right click in new file, and that just creates new file, nothing else. So if I call this main controller.php, for example, it just creates file, and I don't have anything right here. I have to type PHP opening tag and then the namespace, which is the front-end controller, and so on. So there is a small extension for that in VS Code. Let's just turn off the sound. And that's called PHP files. This one, it doesn't have that much downloads, but it's and it's also not perfect, but it's a little bit better than what it is right now in the VS Code. So whenever you install that extension, and let's create new file right now, right click on the controllers, and down below I have three new options: create PHP class, new PHP class, new PHP interface, and new PHP trait. I'm gonna choose the new PHP class, and right here I'm about to name, and I'm gonna call it main controller. So this is the class name, hit the enter. What it extends, and I'm going to say that it extends the controller, or I can specify with the namespace as well. So let's just type controller, and what it implements, it doesn't implement anything, and now it created that PHP class. So at least it does something, but that's not very helpful. In this specific case, because I extended from the controller, it just used the controller, but that class actually doesn't exist. So it needs to extend from eWeb controller. And it also doesn't use that namespace right here, controllers, which is not quite handy and useful. And yeah, this is basically how this works. I'm gonna delete that, don't save that, and delete that main controller, and let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So go to frontend controllers, right click, new PHP class, and I'm going to call it main controller, and it automatically detects the namespace based on other files inside the same folder, and it creates that front-end controller. I can specify what it extends. Obviously, in this case I can just start typing controller, but the good thing is that I just start typing controller, but it searches and finds the controller classes for me. So I just hit the very first one, which is eWeb controller, hit enter on that. I don't have to worry about writing the full namespace, which might be a very long namespace. I can specify, of course, implement if I want, but that's in most cases very enough. And just click OK, and it creates the following template. So this is the namespace. This is the main controller which extends. So it's very fast to create such kind of controllers in PHPStorm, or such kind of classes. So main controller, you just choose the controller right here and enter 2 times, and here we have that class. If you want to create trait or namespace, it works in the same way, just you choose right here interface or trait, and you can for interface you can't extend, but for trait you can use the extend feature, which you can actually use extend only on the class. So extending trait is done in a different way. So yeah, that's basically all about creating classes. So if you want to create some file in PHP, just a normal file, for example, if you want to create a view file and create, let's call it test, it just at least creates that PHP opening tag. If you want to create a view file in the VS Code, you have option either to create class, interface, and trait using that extension, or just new file, and whenever you call it test.php, you have to also specify the extension, hit the enter, then you don't have even that PHP opening tag, and you always have to type manually. I think creating PHP files is much better handled in PHPStorm than in VS Code. Now let's talk about code refactoring. So for example, my class is called video, and now I want to change that and call my video. So I can make a rename right here and call it just my video, but I need to update all the usages where that video class is used. So the only option I see in VS Code is to find and replace. So you search for video and replace it with my video. And right here, if I just tick that, right here we have the possibility to replace in all cases, but you need to be carefully that it definitely replaces only classes and not some other things. For example, right here, this is just a DocBlock annotation and it should not replace right there. So I could not find a way to do this in VS Code. So there is no way to refactor that and rename. Probably there is some extension, but I don't know about that extension. Just let me know in the comment section if you know that extension. Let's see how this works in PHPStorm. So let's open that video PHP and right click on that and refactor rename. And I'm going to call this now my video, and I'm going to hit the enter, and it thinks a little bit, searches for video and finds that, and then tells me that rename inheritors and related files with the following names to my video PHP. So that will actually rename the file into my video PHP as well. And I can see the content of the video. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And look at this. So the file was named also my video because it's using auto loading and we need that feature. And we see other changes. So if I just click right here down below Git and then local changes, on the left side I see all the places where the changes made. So for example, right here, common modules video was changed into my video, then channel controller right here, everywhere, basically wherever the video was used, it was changed into my video. Of course, if I want to undo this, I can do just Ctrl and Z, undo renaming class common modules video to my video. Okay, and this will revert everything, and on the left side I see only these two changes which are not basically related to that renaming. So refactoring is very awesome feature. By default you can do on Shift and F6 that refactoring, but I prefer to set it on F2. So whenever I set my keyboard shortcuts, I set it to on F2 and I do it just like this. So this is very awesome feature, and there is, I think, no equivalent directly in VS Code for that. And again, let me know in the comment section if you know an extension for that. I forgot to mention, but the refactoring works not only on class names, but also on properties and constants and methods. For example, if I want to change the status unlisted and refactor that, so right click and refactor, rename, and I'm going to call it status unlisted underscore 2, for example, and hit enter on that. And it actually changed all the usages. So if we go in the local changes right here in the video, and down below in the same class, down below we see that it was actually updated. So if we scroll down, right here we see that we have status unlisted 2, and previously we had it status unlisted, and also down below we have the status unlisted 2. And for example, let's check out the method. Let's check out, I don't know which method to grab it. Get thumbnail link. Okay, I'm going to rename this. So refactor, rename that, and I'm going to call it get thumbnail URL, for example, hit enter on that, and it actually made the refactoring. Go to the Git and find all the usages, and inside the video item we see that we had previously get thumbnail link, and now we have get thumbnail URL, as well as on other places. Again, Ctrl Z will undo the operation, so I'm going to undo the 2 times because we don't want that one as well. Okay, just like this, and we have it. So we can do the same thing for properties as well, but I hope this makes full sense. Now let's talk about code snippets and live templates. Basically they are the same. However, in VS Code it's called code snippets, in PHPStorm it's called live templates. There are basically no existing code, not much existing code snippets for VS Code. So if we just open that sample PHP, and right here, the existing code snippet is, for example, for each. So if I want to create for loop, just type the for each, hit the enter on that, and it creates the following code snippet. If I want to write an if statement, just choose this one. It creates that if statement with condition, and cursor is right there. If 5 is more than 7, I can just write that immediately. That's something worthy, but not that much. If you want to create your own code snippets, you can go into preferences, user snippets. You just choose the extension right there and create custom code snippets. I'm not going to cover how you can create custom VS Code code snippets. You probably know about that. If you don't know, there is tons of resources about that. Okay, let's see live templates in PHPStorm. So there is also existing live templates which we can see right now. So for example, if I want to create a for each loop, I just type for each, and it gives me that again countries, and it creates that country in a singular form. I have a typo right here. Even if I type that countries and I change that, it automatically updates that variable. So this is the one code snippet. If I want to write an if statement, I can do that as well. But let's see what existing code snippets, live templates we have in PHPStorm. Go to settings, and then let's search for live templates, and right here we have all that live templates, and let's go to this section for PHP. So these are live templates for Zen HTML. Let's search for PHP, and right here we have all that. So this is the class. I don't know what is this actually. I haven't actually used, but right here we have that echo, which just prints. We have that printf, pref, which I'm going to cover this in the details, but we have that thr, which throws new error. Basically, we have a couple of predefined ones. You can have a look on your own, but we can create new ones from here, live template, and you call it what you want. For example, dump, and in the template text, I will just print, for example, echo, and oops. So this is, I'm going to create var underscore dump, and the cursor must go right there. So this end defines the cursor, and down below we have that echo pre in this way, and I need to also define the applicable context. So inside the PHP files, when the context looks like this, inside PHP files you can actually write CSS and JavaScript as well, right? Because the PHP is much like an HTML file, and inside HTMLs you can write these things, and you need to define a context right there. So PHPStorm is intelligent enough to understand the context in which you're typing at the moment. So I'm going to choose PHP right now, and inside the PHP context, whenever I type dump, I want to create the following thing. This context actually is very awesome, and it has big advantage. For example, if you are typing in a view file, and PHPStorm has support also for view files, in view we have three contexts. In a single file component view files, we have HTML, we have JavaScript, and we have CSS as well. And the same template, for example, CL, might be something different for view file. For JavaScript, it might be console log, or for HTML, it might be something else. So you have possibility to define. And this is just a group, it's not name. So right here I can provide a description, create var dump with pre-tags, and just hit OK on that. And now whenever I type dump, hit the tab right here, it just gives me a possibility to create that var dump. Again, the same trigger can be used for different code snippets depending on your context. So if you are creating new code snippet, just choose the context. Maybe you want that in the HTML. For example, I'm going to create new one, which will be PHP, and which will basically, or PE, which will do the following. So but I'm going to do this in the HTML context. So PHP echo, and I'm going to put right here a cursor, and I'm going to choose now HTML context. Okay, not PHP context, but HTML context. And if I just hit the OK right there, and if I just type PE, it doesn't do anything because that's a PHP context. However, if I just delete that and type PA, it creates that PHP tag. Okay, because now this is an HTML context, I can type right here a button, hit the tab, and it creates. So that's an HTML context, that's why it works like this. I think the live snippets is handled much better in PHPStorm because you have nice user interface, and you have also possibility to define the same abbreviation for different code snippets for different context. Okay, this is just like this. Now let's talk about debugging. Debugging is, in my opinion, excellent in both editors. So I do have separate videos about debugging in VS Code and in PHPStorm as well. I'm going to put the links in the video description, and I'm not going to cover debugging right here, but both of them have great support of debugging. You just need to install Xdebug and configure or other debugging tools, but I do have videos about using Xdebug, and just like this, you have an excellent experience in debugging in both. Let's talk now about importing classes in PHPStorm and in VS Code. So in VS Code, we need to install the following extension, PHP namespace resolver. And what this does basically is that if you are using a class which is not imported right here, you can right click on that class and just hit that import class. It also has that shortcut Control Alt and I, which is customizable, so you can set to your desired shortcut, and whenever I click import on that, it asks me which class I want to import. That's logical question because we have a lot of controllers. I'm going to choose eWebController, and that class basically goes right here, eWebController, which is nice and awesome. So if I want to expand that class, so right click on this and expand class and eWebController, and it doesn't import, but it instead creates that eWebController expands with the full namespace basically. So this one also has a couple of other options like to sort imports and highlight not imported class, highlight not used classes, and so on. In this case, we can see that these two classes are not used, so that's why it highlights. So that's nice extension basically, and it has also good ranking, and it has like over 300,000 downloads. So that's definitely useful. Let's sort these imports, and we can see that this is sorted nicely. Okay, let's actually we need to actually remove that unused imports, highlight not used classes, and then I can delete this manually. Okay, I can do this. Okay, let's see how this works in PHPStorm. Okay, so here I'm actually going to change this and delete this as well. And here I'm gonna right click on this, and actually generally I don't know if there is this option in the right click, but if you just mouse over on that, it tells me that undefined class controller, and you can hit that import. So when you hit that, it asks me which class you want to import, eWebController, and now it imports and puts this at the very top. Or I can just hit the Alt and Enter, and you can just import the class just like this. And there is another shortcut in PHPStorm to optimize your imports, and that's Control Alt and O. This will basically sort the imports and remove some unused imports. In this case, common models login form is not used. It's a little bit grayed out if you notice, and Control Alt and O removes that and sorts the import, and just like this is an optimization. So both of them are fine. If you install extension in VS Code, that extension is also fine. However, in PHPStorm, of course, you don't need to install this extension, and it works just without this. It's also good that the VS Code has this expand class. That's nice. Sometimes you want to put this right here. To be honest, I don't know if this specific feature exists in PHPStorm. Yeah, that's all about importing classes. Importing traits and interfaces work in the same way as importing classes work. Now, let's talk about generating constructors and getters and setters in VS Code and PHPStorm. So you need to install the following two extensions in order to make this working in VS Code: PHP constructor and PHP getters and setters. Check out my video about 12 VS Code extensions for PHP development, where I cover these extensions in more details, but right now I'm going to focus more on PHPStorm because that gives some possibility, and these possibilities are described in that video, and you can basically have a look at this. So in the PHPStorm, if you want to generate a constructor, you basically have two approaches. So first, you can have a couple of properties, for example, public name and public surname, and then if you want to generate a constructor, you just hit the Alt and Insert, and then you go to the constructor and choose the properties you want to use in the constructor, and I'm going to choose both right now. Click OK, and it creates that constructor with the DocBlock and with the arguments and everything what we need. The second approach basically is that if you don't have that properties, and I'm going to delete these, and right here as well, if you don't have these properties, just create constructor and accept these properties. We can remove this one as well, and then go to the constructor name, Alt and Enter, and initialize properties, and hit Enter on that. You choose both of them and click OK, and it creates these properties, but in this case it creates them as a private properties because they are not used outside of the class. It understands that and creates that private. So I generally do create properties first and then generate constructor. So let's create these properties again. So I'm going to revert the code back, and right here I'm going to generate now getters and setters. In the same way, just like we generated the constructor, I'm going to hit Alt and Insert, go to the getters and setters and select both of them, click OK, and it creates getters and setter classes for both of them. This is a lot of this is a great feature which saves a lot of time for me personally. So this is awesome feature, and I love this in PHPStorm. And in VS Code there is also an option to generate, as I mentioned, getters and setters and constructor using these extensions, but they are not as perfect as it is in PHPStorm. So in this criteria, definitely PHPStorm does it better. Now let's talk about generating DocBlocks. In VS Code, we need to install the following extension, PHP DocBlocker. Without the extension, it doesn't do that much. As soon as you install, you have possibility to generate the DocBlocks with description and variable types as well. So right here, if I want to generate the DocBlock for that name, I'm going to just type the / 2 times, hit the enter, and it creates that with undocumented variable. I'm going to call it test right now, then hit tab, and this is the variable type detected based on the default value of that variable, which is nice. So this works nice definitely in VS Code, and I can change this into mixed, for example, hit the enter, or enter doesn't work, hit the tab, and that's basically it. So let's see about the functions right here, set name / 2 times, and right here the this is the test type, this is param type, and I'm going to give it a string, and the return type basically is void. Let's see what happens if I just give it a default value right here, delete that, generate, and right now it detected that the type of the name variable is a string. So that works quite nicely in VS Code. We have also a possibility to generate these on classes as well. Here we just have this undocumented class. It's interesting to see if it puts the namespace right there. Let's go to the common, for example, models login form, and I'm gonna generate right here, oops, the DocBlock, hit the enter, and it puts right here undocumented class. So that works quite fine, and it is very customizable extension. Again, I mentioned this extension in the video of 12 VS Code extensions. Check it out. And right here you can, I explained, but you can also set your author and a couple of other information in the DocBlock. So that's quite nice. Let's see how this actually works in PHPStorm. So I'm going to remove this generated DocBlocks, and let's see on the class first. So asterisk 2 times, and it creates that class person, so it automatically creates that. Let's see the variable. So it doesn't do that on the variable. Well, actually it puts the cursor right here, so we can describe the variable right here, person name. So for variables, I think this is better, because the variables are something which doesn't need that much explanation. So the single line annotation will be absolutely enough. And yeah, right here I have that when I mouse over on the name, I see that person name test, for example, mouse over on that, and I see person name test. So this is handy, and this is definitely better. Let's see how this works in the on the method slash asterisk 2 times, hit the enter, and right now it creates that string. This is a name. It doesn't return anything, which basically means that it has void return type. If I want to put the annotation, it's better to create to put the cursor right here. So set person name, for example, in this way. So definitely the creating DocBlocks is good in both, but let's see how this works on the something else which is inside the namespace slash asterisk 2 times, hit the enter. And the good thing in PHPStorm is that it creates package right here as well, that this class channel controller is inside the following package. Again, in PHPStorm we also have possibility to generate the author, to put the author and a couple of other information, but this is the out of the box value, and it works just like this. And they are pretty much the same, VS Code and PHPStorm, and I can't say which one is the better in this specific case. Maybe PHPStorm is a little bit better. Let's talk about overriding methods. This is actually one of my favorite feature in PHPStorm. So basically right here I have a static function find which overrides the parent static function find, and PHPStorm creates that link right here which indicates that this overrides the parent method. And if I click on that, it tells me which parent method you want to navigate. So there is an active record find method, and there is active record interface. So if I click on that, it jumps into the interface. If I click on the second one, it jumps into the active record. So that's an excellent feature, and inside the active record I even see that this overrides the parent, but there is child class or child classes which overrides this specific class. So this is amazing feature. I really love this. So I click on that and I can find all the child classes which override that specific method. And just like this, I can jump to that video like PHP class which overrides that specific feature. If I want, for example, to create before I move on that, there is basically no identification that on the comment that the find overrides. In VS Code, there is no way to display that information or jump to the parent method. So in PHPStorm, there is also a great support of overriding methods when you are about to write a new method. For example, I want to create an after find method which will override the parents after find. So I just write after find, so I don't need to write the public function. Just write after find and it autocompletes that for me. Hit the enter on that and it creates the method and calls also the parent. Okay, look at this. I'm going to show you also on constructor example. So I just start typing underscore construct, hit the enter on that, and it creates, and it also accepts the configuration object and passes down. So that config basically is a argument which is required by the parent constructor. That's why it accepts right here. So it basically analyzes the parent constructor and accepts the same arguments right here. That is an awesome feature, and it gives me a lot of time saving when building real applications. And again, there is no alternative, there is no similar thing in VS Code. At least I couldn't find that. So if you just start typing after find, it cannot find the list of the methods which are available, or underscore constructor there's no way to do this in VS Code. Now, let's talk about scratch files, which is also a very important feature in any editor. So sometimes when you develop, we want to create a temporary file where we put that information and analyze and just have a look, and then we don't need that file anymore. In VS Code, we can just create new file in this way, and we can also choose from down below what extension, what content I want to have inside that file. And I'm going to choose PHP right now. So now it creates that PHP logo right here, and I can actually now write here the PHP code, which basically is not associated to the project. And even if I close my VS Code, that file will be still there when I reopen my VS Code. However, if I close that specific file unsaved, I cannot recover that. And that's not very good. Let's see how this is handled in PHPStorm. So in PHPStorm, we can create scratch files using Ctrl, Alt, Shift, and Insert. And that creates this drop down of all the possible files what we have right here. I can easily filter using PHP, hit enter on that, and that creates scratch PHP. And I can write here any code, and if I just close my PHPStorm and reopen, this file will still be here. And even if I close that specific file, I can access it later from the following area. If I open the project, down below there are scratches and consoles, and in the scratches I can find that, and that gives me a possibility that I can just recover that information whenever I need. I can create other type of scratch files, for example JS for JavaScript, and right here, and even if I close these, I can recover them both. So this is an excellent feature. I use it a lot and I really like how it is, and I think this in PHPStorm it is handled in a better way than in VS Code. Now let's talk about the local history of files. In VS Code you need to install the following extension. This is at least what I found to be the best one. So you need to install that, which will start tracking your files, and whenever you change your file, it creates a version in the history folder. So let's actually change the sample PHP right here. I'm going to remove that DocBlocks from here and here, save that, and on the left side right here it creates that history. So whenever you save the file, it creates a different version in this history. And right now we have 3 different versions of the file. If I just open that, I see this is the initial version, this is the next version, and this is the last version what we have so far. So let's see how this is managed in PHPStorm. So let's open the sample PHP right here, and in PHPStorm we have the possibility to see using right click, local history, and show history. Okay, so this creates the whole history of the file, and on the left side we have the whole versions, and it doesn't actually create new folder. So instead it manages its on its own, so we don't see the history folder anywhere. So right here we see that this is the external change. Basically this is external change because this was changed in VS Code, it's not changed in the PHPStorm, but still PHPStorm keeps track on that. So this is the next version, the older version, this is the older version, and this is the older, and so on. So we have all the versions, and we can scroll down and we can see even the versions which are from different days. So now this is 10 days ago version, and I can see right here what is the what was the version 10 days ago. So this is an awesome feature, and that saved my life several times when for some reason the like the power was off, for example, and the IDE was closed immediately and I lost some data, but I managed to recover, or I have something uncommitted and unpushed, and I recovered that from the local history. So that is an excellent tool, and PHPStorm does it much better than in VS Code because we don't have to take care of that history folder. In VS Code, basically, we need to make sure that we have inside the git ignore so that we don't push it, don't commit and don't push it. And the second reason why this is better in PHPStorm than in VS Code is that we see an actual difference what was changed. So right here we see that this was, for example, removed, then this is identical with the current one, and this is what is the difference compared to the current one. So basically all the history versions are compared to the current file version, and in VS Code you have to identify manually what has been changed. And if we're talking about the large file, not on a small file, then it will be very hard to find what was the actual difference and what was changed in this large file. That's why I generally I prefer the PHPStorm's local history much more. Now let's talk about multiple values in clipboard. This is also a very nice feature, and I use it sometimes, and it's also very convenient. So you need to install the following extension in VS Code, multiple clipboards for VS Code, and it is written right here that you can generally copy normally, and then when you want to paste, you can select clipboard to paste using Command Alt and V on Mac and Control Alt and V on Windows and Linux. And if you want to paste and cycle through clipboard items, you can use Control Shift and V on Windows and Linux. So let's just copy the following value. So this is the first thing I copy, this is the second, and this is the third. And I want to now paste this. Oops, this is the third. And I want to now paste this. So I just type Control and Alt and V, but it doesn't do anything as it is written in the documentation. For some reason for me this doesn't work. However, Control Shift and V, that works and it pasted, but if I keep hitting Control Shift and V, that basically iterates over the copied values. Okay, so now I have the following copied values, so it iterates over those values, and just you can leave whichever you want. And this is like this. And let's see in PHPStorm. So I copy these three things, and when you want to, I made a mistake again, so copy this, this, and this. So whenever I want to paste, I type Control Shift and V, and that opens that choose content to paste. And you can navigate using arrows and choose which one you want to paste. And I'm going to paste this one, for example, which is copied even before. Hit the enter on that, and it now, when I pasted that's also additional great feature. When I pasted, it detected that the pasted code basically is using the following classes: active data provider, common modules video. And if I really want to import these classes, I'm going to hit OK, and now at the top these classes have been imported for me. And that is very awesome feature, and this is also customizable. By default it has that 6 or 10 values, I don't remember, but you can increase that number of values in a clipboard in PHPStorm. Now, let's talk about refactoring piece of code into a separate variable or separate method. Extracting. So in the VS Code, I didn't find any command, any extension for that. So for example, if I want to extract and save that piece of code in a separate, on its own variable, so it doesn't give me anything in the right click. Also, I found that when I made a research, I found that there is that extract on a context menu, but it works only for JavaScript. I didn't find that for PHP at least. So let me know in the comment section if you know about that. I will be thankful. But I cannot extract this in a variable, or I cannot extract this in a method piece of code. So let's see how this can be done in PHPStorm. So for example, right here, I have that piece of code, and I'm gonna hit Alt, Control, and V, and that now creates new variable, and it also gives it a query. So this is absolutely amazing name, the best name. Video query is exactly what I would name that, because that video find actually returns an instance of the video query, and all the other methods return instance of the video query. That's why this is an awesome name. So let's just revert this back, and let's say that I have this in a separate variable which is already called video query, or let's say let's do like this, video query equals an associative array, for example, where some key corresponds some value. I just want to show you multiple usage of that. So now I have these used in multiple areas, so right here and right here as well. So I just select the code, Ctrl Alt and V, and now it identifies that there are multiple changes, multiple occurrences, and whether I want to replace this only or replace all. So I'm gonna select with all, and now it creates that video query 1. It doesn't call it video query because there already exists video query, so that's why it creates video query 1. That gives me a feeling that my IDE which I'm coding is intelligent, very intelligent. It's like my best friend at the moment, and that gives me a satisfied feeling when working inside there. So this is it, and I'm going to hit enter. Of course, I can change the name of that variable if I want, and it will be changed everywhere. Ev query, for example, v query, and hit the enter, and that's it. If I want to extract that in a separate function, so for example, I'm going to select this and hit Ctrl Alt and M. So now yeah, it sometimes does not work. Ctrl Alt and M, and sometimes it's necessary to type also Windows. So Ctrl Alt and Windows key, and then M. So, and now I can call this whatever I want, get latest videos, for example, and I can make this protected or private if I want. It doesn't accept any parameter, that's why it's there. So just hit that, and now PHPStorm has detected 2 code fragments in this file that can be replaced with call to extracted method. Would you like to review and replace them? If I hit no, it won't replace the second one. If I hit yes, it will give me the review possibility. Where's my review? So select Ctrl Alt Windows and M, and get latest, refactor, yes. Well, for some reason it doesn't work in this specific case. If I open the find, that is something else. No, in this specific case it doesn't work for some reason. I don't know exactly why, but generally I use that feature sometimes and it works always without any problem. So that's also a great feature, not maybe crucial, but nice to have feature. Now, let's talk about some advanced things, which are not necessary for every developer, but nice to have. For example, let's talk about in general, customization, how customizable our editor it is. So VSCode is absolutely customizable. It's open source. You can even clone the source and customize as much as you want, but it has a great and amazing and infinite list of extensions and plugins you can search for and install. And basically without the extensions, VSCode, in my opinion, VSCode would be almost useless for PHP development. Yeah, sorry, but I think so. But with extensions, it can be quite powerful, and it's also fully customizable. We can search for some themes if we want, for example, material themes. We can install these. I generally have these themes installed. We can set the material theme icon as well. So I generally have a couple of themes and plugins which I install. For example, I use a live server and a couple of other things. There exists also plugins for PHPStorm, so you can customize. So let's go to plugins section, and let's click on plugins right here, and I'm going to search for a couple of other plugins. So there exists tons of plugins in PHPStorm as well, not as many as it is in VS Code for sure, but there exists, and we can install a couple of them. For example, .env file support, or Laravel support, or Symfony support, and we have a couple of others. In this case, I'm going to search for Material Theme UI. I'm going to hit install on that and accept and install, and this will change the appearance of my PHPStorm. We just need to restart that IDE. Restart now. And yeah, in VS Code we actually already changed that. And here we see the VS Code, so we have absolutely different theme, we have different icons, nice icons. And let's see now in PHPStorm, I actually installed that theme, so I'm going to just close this right now, and let's go to settings, and I'm going to search for appearance and behavior right here. Click on appearance, and we have a couple of options right here. Darkula, and these are the themes which were grabbed by that plugin I installed, and I'm going to search for Material Lighter. I think it's Material Oceanic. Let's hit the apply, and this is exactly what I'm using, and it changes appearance. Also, I can set the icons. These are the default icons, and I can go to the settings and search for, again, go to the plugins section and install, I think it's called Atom Material Icons, this one. This is nice icons, and we need to install that extension, and maybe we need to restart the PHPStorm. I'm not fully sure. No, it doesn't need restart, and here I have that icons extension. So I customized right now in a 1 minute my PHPStorm as well. So if you want like absolute amazing customization, maybe PHPStorm cannot give you all what you want. Maybe VS Code cannot give you all what you want, but the advantage of VS Code is that it's an open source and you can customize as much as you want if you just grab the source code and use it right there. When we talk about the customization, we need to also mention the shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, and these are also fully customizable in both. So in VS Code, you just go to File, Preferences, Keyboard Shortcuts, and you can set whatever shortcut you want. In PHPStorm, you go to the Settings, and here we need to search for Key Map right here. I'm going to click on that, and if we just expand all of them, right here we see that they are grouped basically by categories. So, and here we have tons of keyboard shortcuts what you need. You will definitely find, for example, I'm going to search for delete line, so which by default is set on Control and Y, but I changed right in a few minutes ago, and I also added Control and E. So you can basically change keyboard shortcuts as much as you want in both VS Code and PHPStorm. And to talk about the live templates and user snippets, this is also customizable, and I have actually covered this. And yeah, there exist themes for both of them and extensions and plugins for both of them, as we saw. Now, I want to talk about the best tool of PHPStorm and compare it to the alternative of the VS Code. That's actually the database tool. So when you want to connect to the database, you have you need some client, right? So for MySQL, if you install XAMPP, it comes with the PHPMyAdmin. You can separately install PHPMyAdmin if you want. There exists on Linux-based systems, and this is a web-based client which connects to the database. But generally, I don't use PHPMyAdmin at all. If I use it for videos only, for young developers who don't have PHPStorm. I always use PHPStorm's database tool, which is amazing. So let's first start with VS Code and see what alternative is there. The only alternative in VS Code is MySQL, and there exists basically separate plugins for different databases, but none of them for me is the perfect tool. neither in the user interface nor in the SQL writing autocompletion, neither in the editing and so on. So all extensions I found for VS Code are not even close to the PHPStorm's database terminal. And you can explore. Let's install this one, for example, which has the most number of downloads. I just want to compare. So let's install this one. It will take a couple of seconds. Yeah, it's actually already installed. And I'm going to close and open this to have the database tool. Yeah, if you go to the Explorer right here, you can see down below the MySQL section. Okay, from here we need to connect to the database. I just click the plus and it asks me the host. So host is localhost, hit the enter. The MySQL user will be root, hit the enter. Password in my case is empty, hit the enter. Then this is the default port and certificate path is an empty. And it now connects to the database. And right here, I see all the databases I have, and that's absolutely fine. Let's open this FreeCodeTube database, click on the table, and I want to see the content of that. So how I can see, double click doesn't do anything, right click, select top 1000, and it is executing that query, but where's the output? So let's close this. So let's go to the comment, right click, select top, and I don't actually see the output. Where's that? So this is the output right here. Okay, so I'm gonna close here. Here I have the results. That's also not ugly, not nice and ugly, because I just execute the query and it doesn't show me the output. So let's just close this once again and result as well. And I'm going to turn off the sound. So right click, select top 1000, and here I have the results. And I cannot select row, I cannot edit, I cannot sort, I cannot actually do anything right here. So the only thing is like what I can do is write select here. So I can add order by. And even if I start typing order by, it doesn't autocomplete that for me. So order by created, add, for example, in descending order. Then I want to execute that, right click and run my SQL query, and that gives me that output right here. And that, as I mentioned, is not even close to what PHPStorm gives you. So let's have a look in the PHPStorm. So I'm going to click on the plus button and data source, and here we have a lot of almost all relational and non-relational database sources. So we have possibility to connect to MariaDB, Mongo, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, SQLite, and so on. I'm going to go with MariaDB because my XAMPP installation comes with MariaDB. They are very close to MySQL and MariaDB, you know about that. But connecting to MySQL doesn't work on PHPStorm, so just choose the MariaDB. It opens that tool, and if you have absolutely new installation of PHPStorm, just like I have, you need to install the missing drivers. So just click the download. It will download the driver files, and here we have that. Now I can already connect. The user is basically root. The host and port are default set, and I just type the root and hit test connection, and it was successfully connected. I can go to the schemas and decide which schemas I want to show for that specific project. I can select all schemas, of course, and in this case, on the right side, I will see all the schemas right here. Or I can go to the settings again and only show that FreeCodeTube, which is relevant to this project, specific project. I generally show only the schema which I need for this project. That's also very good, that I mistakenly don't run some query in another schema. So right here I have that tables, and I can double click on the comment and it opens that editor. And let's collapse both of the sides, and we have possibility to sort them by any column. We click at the header. We have possibility to edit them. And if we go to the created at, not created at, but if your column is date time basically, so now my columns are timestamp. Right here I can see that they are just integers, but if you have date time column, it also creates date picker, from which you choose the date which you want in the database. So this is awesome. If you just hit control on your keyboard and then click on the relational column, foreign key column right here, it opens that referenced rows only, and click on that and it opens that comment basically, which is the parent. So in this table basically we have the parent-child relationship. One comment is a child of another, so just clicking on that opens again the comment which has ID 95. I can add any keywords I want at the top. For example, where mention is null, and it will only show where the mention is null, or mention is not null. And I can do anything. If I need like pagination, if I have a lot of columns, then I have pagination right here as well. I can change, update something from here, hit the enter, and then submit that, or just revert the changes, click the reload, and yes. And this is an amazing tool. As I mentioned, it has possibility to connect to multiple databases. It has as well possibility to make a dump of the whole database. So where it is export with MySQL dump, you just go with that and make a dump of the whole database, or you can make dump of a specific table, or you can recover specific, run specific SQL script and do that. Another great thing is that the autocompletion inside here is absolutely amazing. So click that console button and just choose existing console or new console, new query console, and I can write select everything from, for example, let's start with video, and I'm going to give it an alias v, and then I want to join to the user, for example. So left join, and as soon as I start typing L, it auto-completes all possible left joins. So this is amazing. So this is right now at the moment my best friend. So let's join on comment, for example. So I'm going to hit enter on that, and now let's join on, for example, user. So down below I have possibility to connect to join to the user using either comments created by or the videos created by. So I'm gonna join with the videos created by, then I'm gonna select everything and click that, execute, or select everything and control and enter, and that gives me the whole output right here, the result of the join. That's amazing. Another great thing, another amazing thing is that if I have an SQL statement written in my PHP project, and I'm going to do this right now. So SQL equals, for example, select everything from video, just like this. Now, this has a red, yellow underline. And now PHPStorm tells me that SQL dialect is not configured. So PHPStorm actually understood that this is an SQL and asks me to configure SQL dialect. I'm going to hit on select change dialect to, and I'm going to change this into, this is basically a generic SQL, but I'm going to change this into MySQL. So this is MySQL dialect. And I'm going to set also global SQL dialect, which in my case, in most cases, is MariaDB or MySQL. I can select my MariaDB. The project SQL dialect is also MariaDB, and I can select this from generic, for example, or I can even delete that. So the global and the project SQL dialect is set to MariaDB. So I hit OK on that. And now look at this. So right here, it cannot resolve the video. So it already understood my select and now tells me that I don't know that table video. So I'm going to hit on that, add table to data source, and it's now creating video table. I can actually select the data source. So right here I have different actions, and I'm going to click on that. and I'm going to go to attach session, not this one, but go to SQL resolution scopes, and right here I'm going to choose inside the project mapping the local host. So I'm going to click on this, even FreeCodeTube for example, and I'm going to close that. And yeah, let's actually delete that line. So the project mapping goes to FreeCodeTube. I'm going to hit OK, and now that select everything from video is understood inside the whole project. So from any place inside the project, if I just type this, if I mouse over on the video, it even shows me the definition schema for the table video. This is awesome. But if I select that and just hit the Control and Enter, actually I don't know why it doesn't work. It was working before, but I have possibility it should be actually Control and Enter. Yeah, exactly. So you don't need to select that. Hit the Control and Enter, and down below, so just again Control and Enter, execute in the local host, or we can use the existing console, and it executes that. We don't have database selected, so we need to execute this in the so we don't have database selected. Right click and execute, but it executes in a wrong place. So at the top you see the schema right here inside that file. So I'm going to click on that and choose the schema, and now I'm going to collapse this once again and basically close these errors. And if I just hit the Control and Enter again, it executes now this SQL in the FreeCodeTube schema, and it gives me the result. Okay, I can even have an autocompletion when writing select right here. So left join this on comment, Control and Enter on that, and execute, and right here I see the result of join. So this is absolutely amazing tool, and which gives you a huge boost in productivity when working on a project and you're writing select, obviously if you have database in your project. Another great thing about the database is that you can create as many new console queries as you want, and you can even rename them. So right click, and from here you can rename, you can name whatever you want. For example, this might be videos, for example, and you just type select everything from video, and if you just close them, so you can always recover from here. So this is videos, this is console 1, and you can even find them in the project in scratches and consoles. If you go in the database in consoles, right here you can find it from here as well. Look at this. So this is an amazing thing, so that this does almost anything to save your time and save your data. Now, the next topic is what I think is one of the greatest thing of VS Code, and it is not well handled in PHPStorm, and that is working on large text files. So right here, I have created that file. Actually, the name is sample 2 megabyte text file, but I copied and pasted the content up to 400 megabyte. So let's call it just sample txt. This is almost 400 megabyte, and I'm going to open this with VS Code, and it opens in several seconds. There are 1 million line of code. So it tells me that the tokenization, wrapping, and folding has been turned off for this large file in order to reduce the memory usage and avoid freezing or crashing. That's okay, but I can still use search and replace features, and this is exact thing what I use a lot in VS Code. So sometimes I work with hundreds of megabytes of database dumps, and I want to find something in that database dump and replace. I can do this with Linux commands, of course, but if I have an interface, I can do it much faster time. So I generally do such kind of things with VS Code. As you can see, we have right here 1 million, above 1 million lines of code, and I can search for that specific word and replace it, for example, with test. Okay, so here I will find all the occurrences. I'm going to hit the replace all, and there are a lot of occurrences. Hit on that. It needs some time, of course, so it can do it instantly, but when you're working such kind of huge file, the several seconds for replacing that is absolutely fine. So right here, while I'm talking, it found and replaced in all places, and I can save. I'm going to hit Ctrl and S right now, and it needs also some time to save, 2 seconds, maximum 3 seconds, and I have that file updated. However, if I try to open the same file in PHPStorm, that doesn't work as expected. So here we have that the file is too large, showing in read-only mode, and we cannot do anything right here. So I'm going to scroll at the very bottom. It doesn't show anything, basically, not line numbers, not anything, and that's understandable. So it doesn't handle such kind of huge files, but the VS Code does, and I use VS Code for that specific purpose whenever I need that. Now, let's talk about the file templates. Whenever I create, for example, .php file, I wanted to create at least PHP opening tag. So I couldn't find such kind of extension in VS Code. So whenever you create file, if that file, that's just a file, you give it an extension and it's an empty file. And then you can, of course, create a user snippet. When you type PHP, it creates PHP opening tag, and that's it. So I couldn't find that. Also, if you want, for example, to create a skeleton inside the .vue files, for example, to have that template, script, and CSS, then in this case, maybe you don't know Vue, but just don't pay attention to, don't listen to me if you don't know Vue. So if you just want to have some piece of code in your newly created PHP file, you don't have possibility for that in VS Code. So let's go in the PHPStorm and go to the file and settings, and right here we need to find the templates. So we have possibility for that. We go to the file and code templates right here, and we choose, for example, PHP, so PHP file, and this is actually the PHP file right here. So this actually tries to show the PHP file header, and there basically is that PHP file header which is used in all files. So let me show you where I mean. So right here we have that PHP file header which is empty at the moment. So whenever you create PHP file, this is using PHP file header from here. So if I create right here, for example, such kind of annotation that this file is now created by Zura, for example, we can set the author to be Zura and save that. Whenever I create new PHP file, that might be just test PHP, it puts that author Zura right there. So that's absolutely necessary for like an open source projects or in any real projects. I generally use it a lot. Again, if we go into settings, we have right here a couple of other options. We have function doc comment, and this is just some parameters. There's written something already, but we can append this and write that I want to have right here the author information, for example, and you need to experiment with it. So I can write author equals Zura again, save that, and go to the one of the classes, and I'm going to generate the method annotation right here. Hit enter, and it creates that author Zura. And you can of course have, let's open the settings once again, you can of course have your own email and anything what you want right here. I generally have this configured as I want once, and then I export and import settings on multiple machines if I use different machines. So that's necessary feature, and you can of course choose any file, any type file, Vue file, for example, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about. So right here we have, it already has some template, so template tag, script tag, and style tag, and you can write inside there, or JavaScript, for example, which doesn't have anything, but you can write, for example, use strict in every JavaScript file. So whenever you create that, it puts that use strict right there. So I'm going to cancel this. I don't need that. Okay, now let's talk about the code deployment. And the code deployment can be understood in two different ways. So the one way is normally when you create something, you deploy it on a remote machine and that's it. But the code deployment, which is actually called deployment in PHPStorm, is something slightly different. So let's have a look in the settings and check out the deployment section. It is under build, execution, and deployment, and we have to set up the server, and we have different versions right here. I'm going to set up with SFTP, and I'm going to call it just test at the moment, and then I'm going to configure through SSH. So right here I'm going to add new SSH server, and that will be the server where I have that website deployed. Okay, that will be thecodeholic.com. The username will be root, and I'm going to do the authentication using public private keys, test connection on that. Actually, I think I need to choose the key IDRSA, test connection. All right, and that connection happened. I'm going to click apply and OK on that. And right here it is automatically chosen, and now I'm going to auto detect the root path. Basically didn't auto detect, so I'm going to go to var www. This is the path where I actually have my project deployed already, right? So var www free code tube thecodeholic.com/html. I think this is the path. Let me double check that. So here I have logged in on that server, and let's just type ls, and right here I have that public HTML. So I actually need the root path basically will be this one. I can set like this, and I'm going to go to the mappings, and the current folder, the local path, which is this, needs to be deployed in public_HTML, just like this. And I'm going to hit OK on that, so the deployment is actually done. And let's have actually look in the browser on that. So here is the deployed website opened in the browser. So now, and the controller which is right now used is the video index, video controller index. So let's go to the front end video controller, and this is the which is used at the moment. And I'm going to simply comment this return, which should cause that the page will be basically empty. Okay, so right click on that, and down below we have deployment section and upload to test. So I'm going to hit that. It makes a connection and uploads that specific file to that server. And then if I reload the page, basically this is empty. So this gives me a possibility to easily test the things on the remote server. I can even open settings, go to the deployment, go to the options, and right here I'm going to set that to automatically upload always. So upload change files automatically to the default server, and I can even exclude items by name. So I know that I don't want to upload a vendor, and I also don't want to upload the .env file that will overwrite the existing ones, and I don't want to upload some user generated folders like runtime. So inside runtime I don't want to upload anything. So I'm going to hit OK on that. As soon as I uncomment this and save, it is automatically uploaded on the server, and if I reload, I see the data. So that's definitely a very handy feature. Sometimes I have to work like this on servers because the environment is set up in a way that I actually need to deploy that to test it. That, like, I need this domain where the server is, or I immediately want to see these things on other devices like the handheld devices or on a TV and so on. So I generally sometimes have to work in this way, and that's also additionally like the great feature of PHPStorm. I don't know the exact same behavior in VS Code. I made a little bit of research, but I couldn't find. The only thing I found is the deployment as a containers, like you have the Docker containers and you can deploy that. That's something different from what I have just shown to you in PHPStorm, but yeah, I just wanted to show you that I'm actually used to that feature and I think it's good. Okay, to sum up our video and talk about the value out of the box and how intelligent, which one is more intelligent. So the default value out of the box obviously is much more on PHPStorm's side. VS Code basically has very small amount of value for PHP development out of the box. If you don't install extensions, for me personally, it's almost useless for PHP development. However, the PHPStorm actually doesn't need any extension. It works like a charm on most cases and has a lot of great features without any extension. Which one is more intelligent? In my opinion, PHPStorm is much more intelligent, and we saw also this during the video that in certain cases PHPStorm understands what is best for you, and definitely I agree with PHPStorm that in these specific cases the decision what PHPStorm made is definitely best for me. So I have a feeling that PHPStorm is like best friend for me in these specific cases, tries to make my life easier. I have that feeling and I like that feeling. That's why I like PHPStorm. We're close to finish our review, and I don't know actually how many minutes is this. I didn't count, and it is whatever it is. So I just wanted to make the full review, full comparison of VS Code into PHPStorm. I don't have an illusion that this is the full, but at least I tried to cover all the important features and compare them to each other to give you understanding which one is good for which cases. I generally use both. I can't say that one is in general better than the other. If I have to choose one, I will choose PHPStorm. My favorite choice is also PHPStorm, but I also use VS Code in certain cases when I want to quickly edit something, when I have like quick editing in case of files. I want to open just small project and do some things. Also for some front-end cases, just HTML, CSS and JavaScript, I also use VS Code a lot. For specifically PHP, for building PHP applications, when working in frameworks, working in large projects, I prefer PHPStorm much more because it has a greater database tool. It has a lot of great features inside there, and again, I didn't cover all of them, all of the great features they have. Maybe I don't know much about the VS Code also, and let me know in the comment section if I didn't mention some great feature which VS Code has and you are using that feature. I would be honestly thankful to know that. At least I will know something from you, so it's definitely good to learn something from you. So definitely let me know in the comment section this one as well, and if you find this useful, as always, leave a like, subscribe to my channel and enable notifications if you're new. Follow me also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but I'm more active on Twitter lately. And that's it, and share this video if you find it is useful. Thanks for watching and see you in the next time.